This woman has to be gotten to a hospital.
A hospital? What is it?
It's a big building with patients, but that's not important right now.
I've got to get out of here. I've got to get out of here. Down, get a hold of yourself.
Please, let me handle this.
I've got to get out.
A classic, the 1980s film Airplane, poking a lot of fun at the airline industry. And those antics in the air, they are funny, but flight attendants have a very tough job dealing with sometimes cranky travelers.
I think that's maybe why everybody laughs at that movie so much. That much talked about flight attendant from JetBlue who lost it. Well, Steven Slater upset that a woman pulled her bag from the overhead bin too early. He's been getting all kinds of press, accidentally hitting him in the head, she did with that bag. And that's when passengers say he went nuts. Slater began cursing out the entire plane on the loudspeaker, grabbing some beer, and then opening an emergency chute to make a crazy exit. Now, some are calling him a hero, and he's even possibly been tapped for his own reality show. His Facebook page has over 200,000 fans. But most passengers who were on that JetBlue flight left their sympathy at the gate.
I don't really think that yelling at passengers is an excusable behavior.
He should have maintained a certain level of business protocol.
Slater was arrested for criminal mischief. After all this, he actually wants his job back, but he also could be facing 5 years in prison, so it's serious stuff. Well, joining us now, local flight attendant and author Gregg Proteaux. Greg, it's good to see you again. You wrote the book Attitudes at Every Altitude, and I am guessing you have probably seen it all in the air. However, I don't think you've seen anything like what this JetBlue flight attendant did.
I have never seen anything like that, and maybe you're right. Maybe he had enough, and we're all better trained than that, I think, in this country, how to handle awkward situations with passengers. And maybe he's had his fill of this career, and maybe he needs to move on to something else, do you think?
Well, I think some people are actually sympathizing with him. So in a way, it sounds like, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, are you angry with him about the picture that it paints for all flight attendants?
No, not at all. It's just more material for me. Jeff, have you ever been in an office or in a meeting where you wish you had an escape slide?
Oh, yeah.
We have one built right in the airplane.
Yeah.
No, I'm not angry at all. I think it's just maybe time for him to move on to another career, and that's just the way it worked out. I wonder if that was a premeditated situation, though.
Well, it makes you wonder sometimes because a lot of things had to happen for him to eventually get out of there. So he must have been thinking about it for some time. You know, he's had his 15 seconds of fame. The charges he's facing are serious, really beefed up since 9/11, too. I would imagine that flight attendants are pretty well versed about what they can and can't do on these airplanes these days.
We are. Everything is spelled out for us. There's not a lot of creativity in the position, and that's why I wrote the book. You have to release the creativity someplace, so I wrote the book to be a little bit more creative. And I don't know, I just think that we're better trained than that kind of thing. JetBlue does not have a union. I wonder if that maybe minimizes the chances of him getting a job back, or would any airline. It's kind of a confusing story, isn't it? Wasn't this first released about 2 weeks ago? And we don't hear the same story every day. So what really happened?
Yeah, you have all sorts of different angles and twists going on. And I still say that in the end, I bet a judge comes forward and says he's not making any money off of this because the charges are serious after 9/11 and the seriousness that everybody takes when it comes to flight in the United States and beyond. Hey, how about this Southwest Airlines flight attendant who took the crying baby from its mother's arms after apparently this baby was slapped by the mother? Well, now the flight attendant is claiming she was helping the parents, but do you think she went too far on this one? Do airlines encourage you to get kids away from their parents like that?
Fortunately, I've never been in that situation. I hope I never am. But after more of thinking about this, I wonder, maybe that's in the best interest of the child. Do I understand the child already had a black eye from a previous situation? It's a real awkward situation, isn't it, with a gray area that do you or don't you, and the best interest of the child. Sure, I would take it. I don't think they were out of line at all.
Well, that's why we're still talking about it, too, because a lot of people, what would you do? Hey, do airlines prep you for possible run-ins with unruly travelers?
They do, so much to the point that we will warn them at one point that maybe this is not acceptable behavior, and we'll give them a warning. And maybe you've been on flights before where at that point the continued behavior goes on and on. We'll have the law enforcement meet the airplane. Now, knock on wood, I've only done that, I guess maybe that happens once every year and a half or so, but we have the capability of saying, we'll have the authorities meet your airplane, and that'll kind of ruin your, oh, that's not really what I meant. it's too late by then.
Right, right.
So we do that.
Well, you know, this book, I have a copy of your book. I, might as well admit to everybody. In fact, I've been on flights with you before where you have been the flight attendant, and fortunately so far we haven't had a run-in. So you must be doing something right.
I hope so. These run-ins just don't happen that often, but coincidental that they're 2 weeks apart, huh?
Yeah, it really is kind of funny that all of a sudden you see these things bunched together like this. Tell us about the craziest thing that's happened when you've been in the air. Is there one that stands out above any other?
They're all crazy, Jeff. I kind of take light in this job, and none of this is taken personally. A lot of people have never flown before, and that's okay. A lot of times people will come out of the lavatory, and incidentally, when they come out of the lavatory, if they haven't flushed, flight attendants know that because the jump seat is on the back wall of the lavatory. Would you please just flush? Don't you do that at home every time? But oftentimes passengers will come out of the lavatory and tell us, I can't get your water to stop. Yeah, you know what, on these airplanes, 7,000 gallons of water goes through every time you flush. Unlike at home, 1 or 2 gallons. It's not a big deal. Just flush, that's all we ask. The little handle's just to the right of the sink as you leave. Just flush the toilet.
Yeah, I think that probably would make me want to go off if I was a flight attendant and having to go in there and do it for everybody else. Greg, I'm sure we're going to be talking about this for a long, long time. The JetBlue incident and also with Southwest.
Just
and
amazing.
Your book is a real treat. We appreciate you coming in here tonight.
Thanks for having me. It's
All
been a
right,
pleasure.
Gregg Proteaux, thanks so much.
Thank you.